All right. So, what are we doing today, guys? We're doing a research log today. So what I'm going to be doing is a bit of exploration uh, using Grok around world models and around what I am trying to do here, which is uh, let's go to YouTube and see if we can find a Socratic lesson. And let's just turn that on. The thing is, I don't know. I'm a bit like I'm a bit reluctant. I just wanted to find a few examples, but I'm a bit reluctant. Socratic circle because myself. No, this is not gonna work well. I think that's not gonna work well like this. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to basically scaffold in my head a little bit of an earlier version of what I call the classroom, right? So remember what we're doing is I'm trying to build a um, I'm trying to build a Socratic I'm trying to build a Socratic interruption model, right? That it's kind of like a model that is built around the Socratic method. And the idea is basically you're doing your thinking out loud. It's a think aloud protocol, and it's a Socratic lesson. And essentially, what you're trying to find is it's not finding optimal things. It's essentially it's predicting your thinking trace, and it's supposed to be guiding you by deciding when is the right moment to steer you, right? A bit like a self-driving policy, that's acceleration and torque. In here, we're talking about interruptions as a way to steer your thinking. Um, yeah, I think that's what I want. So I would like to understand at first what's the most suitable way to build these, whether a world model or something else, because I know that. So in what are they called? The they blocked me on X, motherfuckers. But it's like um the Mira Murati startup like company like is Intelligent Machines or something like this. No, well they did release this thing where it was supposed to be what they call an interaction model, but it's not nothing really new. It's like a regular model that just kind of has like a direct stream of multimodal like input, I think. Anyway, what I want to do is let's okay, so what I want to do is I want to do a bit of like sort of breadth research, like or wide research first, try to find myself in context. I'm trying to build, I'm trying to build a Socratic interruption model. That's kind of the next step for Open Lesson, right? So I'm trying to do some research in this direction, building a what I call a Socratic interruption model. And the idea of the Socratic interruption model is that it's a model that essentially has multimodal input in the sense that it's a video, right? So it's audio and images, and and the model is supposed to understand the thinking trajectory and is supposed to be able to steer you down the right path. Now, I'm aware this has multiple components, right? Because I tend to make the analogy with driving a car, right? Where essentially driving a car has that it's easier than what I'm trying to do, because driving a car doesn't have it's directly it's directly the bottom of the hierarchy of like action space or actions, right? So essentially your input is a road and you're trying to get from A to B. And I mean, you don't even care about these. You're trying to follow a trajectory. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to basically not deviate too much from an ideal driver's trajectory, right? But the problem is what a definition of a trajectory is directly related to the image, right? Now, when I'm thinking about a Socratic model, I think where I'm going to get in trouble is in the fact that steering your thinking process actually requires is more than the video, right? And it's more than the audio. You actually require understanding of what's being discussed, of what's being thought. You require, but you do not, because I think, let's put it this way, I think the purpose of the purpose of a Socratic interruption model is not so much the correctness, but it's more sort of the guidance through the maze of, or the space of, the hyperspace of like what you know and what you don't know. The goal is to uncover the gaps. The goal is to uncover the things that you need to go and refine, right? And if we frame it like this, it might be easier, because it's essentially it's something where you do not need the model to understand whether what you're saying is correct or not. You need a model that is asking you the right questions in the right moment, both when you sound confident, both when you obviously don't sound confident. And it's that moment of reaction, right, of a question. And like, I think that's important. So one second, I hope that's going to translate well. So what I mean is, yeah, I mean, help me, like, hey, just help me do some research around these, right? Like, where should I start? Like, are world models the best way to start for this kind of thing, where we're trying to train a model and a policy that do these things? Sometimes it's just I was talking too much. Let's see if it actually does a good translation. That's a hell of a prompt. I mean, not that big, actually. I thought I was talking longer. And then what was... and let's look for Socratic... Fuck you, brilliant.com, man. The Socratic method.
By the Greek philosopher Plato. No, I'm just kidding, Socrates. It works like this. You see, when your partner comes at you with a criticism or a complaint, oftentimes you take things personally. You automatically defend yourself.
12 years ago, brother. This is 4 years ago.
Hello. In my previous video, I discussed the 3 layers of thoughts: negative automatic thoughts, underlying rules and assumptions, and core beliefs. One way to address negative thoughts and underlying rules is to draw Nigel's attention to information that might be outside his current focus. The questions also teach Nigel how to evaluate.
I want an example. Socratic method teaching. It's crazy there's nothing about these. So, first of all, that guy is still thinking, okay, cool. ITS, Socratic AI tutors, multimodal dialogue. Socratic layers. Okay. Strong yes. They give you exactly the predictive dynamic similarity you need for following an ideal thought trajectory in hyperspace. Take multimodal observations, simulate rollouts. Train the policy efficiently in imagination, dreamer style, sample efficient steering policy. Different tier model. Add simple heuristics for interruptions. No, that's stupid. Classic Socratic models. Dreamer v3, world model survey. Modular architecture can be no. What I want to I think essentially I want to understand if world models are the right direction. If world models are the right direction, can you give me a Roth architecture of what the world model would look like and find me some references to go through, some research papers like recent ones? I want to build, if that's a good direction to go down, I want to build a world model that is basically that it uses a webcam, that it uses basically a video and audio feed. And I want to first focus on steering the thought trajectory with interruptions. And maybe we can start by just looking at the interruption moment itself, and then we can delegate the question to an LLM, because I think that is maybe. I don't know. I think we have to go hybrid. I think we have to actually go hybrid, and we have to have a world model that understands the right moment to actually interrupt. And then we need to actually have another model that then basically takes in the context of what's been said and actually comes up with a question. I don't think the world model can actually do both things. It would almost be like if your self-driving model would kind of tell you, like, turn left, like, or it would define a torque and acceleration, and it would just tell you something, I don't know, maybe like an additional piece, as in, like, should you listen to a specific music while driving, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I don't know, maybe it's a bad analogy, but it's kind of where my head is at right now. I'm not so sure it can do both. So Jan LeCun's world model research focuses on building systems that learn an internal predictive world model, much like humans and animals develop. A path towards autonomous machine intelligence predicts in multiple levels of abstraction and time scales, drives behavior via intrinsic motivation, enables hierarchical planning. So it does not predict pixels. The model encodes observations into abstract Latin representations. hierarchical, stack levels. So there was in 2023, what is this, IJPA, the first practical resolution image base. VJPA 2025 scaled to web scale. 1 million hours of video. Okay. No task specific training or rewards. This is the paradigms power of embodiment and planning. Le world model, a major practical breakthrough. First fully stable end-to-end JPA trained directly from raw pixels, no pre-training coders or EMA tricks, using only a simple next embedding prediction loss, Gaussian regularizer. Tiny 50 minutes primary version, runs on 1 GPU, learns physical structure in Latin, supports fast model predictive control tasks without rewards, solving long-standing training and stability issues. The thing is, I don't know. Okay. Horizontal cell, what I call focus in the world model, narrowly interruption moment, timing steering signal while delegating questioning specialist LM. VJPA. Okay, so actually it's using the JPA one here. Cross model projector. If I wait 10 seconds, does this likely self-correct or spiral into a dead end? This activates the steering signal. Trap policy. Training loop. Why this works for your goals? I mean, I think we can reduce. I think one thing that we can reduce these experiment to initially is interruption, indeed. So, you know, the problem would be the problem that we're trying to actually isolate is given a feed of someone thinking through a problem, not thinking through a problem, but explaining or answering a question, when is the right moment to interrupt from a Socratic perspective? Let's deep dive in the Socratic method a bit. So how do interruptions, what role do interruptions play in the official sort of most known pure Socratic method? Because this is a powerful method. This is a powerful method because this is exactly when you're doing a session with a tutor like these. It's essentially the interruptions are very, very strong moments, right? Because you are actively thinking, and it's essentially like it's a very strong signal, feedback signal that either you're in a good moment in time to stop and then sort of like don't, do not waste time elaborating more, or it's like a moment of correction, right? So that's why I think it's a very good starting point. I know it's a much smaller scope than I think a conversational model. I think a tutoring model is actually very challenging to build because it's way more complex than self-driving. Self-driving is much more grounded to the world of roads and like staying in a physical trajectory which you can implicitly derive from the image and the video that you have. Whereas in here you're trying to do something that is beyond the actual Socratic dialogue, right? So let's see. In the pure or classical Socratic method, so the one reconstructed through Plato's early dialogues, interruptions aren't peripheral. They are the central engine, exactly. They're the central engine of the method. So Socrates rarely lets a long, uninterrupted monologue unfold. Instead, the conversation is rapid, live back and forth, where he strategically interjects with questions at precise moments into a speech flow. It's It's essentially dialectical steering. I think this is what we want to do, a dialectical steering model. In the purest form, we've got immediate clarification and definition demand. Right after someone makes a confident claim or vague assertion, interrupts to force precision. What exactly do you mean by? Exposing contradictions and assumptions. Refocusing and redirecting the trajectory. And meiotic midwifery support. Here, interruptions are gentler and more guiding when the person is struggling or has an emerging idea, so it interjects to test it. Is it like a child? Yeah, okay, interesting. Is this like a child we should examine? Draw out implications, encourage refinement. Okay, so I mean, that's a good framework. These 4 core points is a good framework. But the thing is, I still think that you need a dual model for this. I do think you need an LLM in the loop, because you need the knowledge access, right? So you need the model, the world model should not focus on predicting next character. You know what I mean? It shouldn't focus on the actual content of the text. It should actually focus on the interruptions. But really, at the end of the day, what's happening is you have a thought process, which is basically you've got the audio, you've got the text. It's more about, I think it's more about these things, right? It's more about detecting these kind of things, which is basically what a self-driving model does. It's detecting drift, it's detecting these kind of stuff, right? So here's more like you need to be able to detect contradictions, you need to be able to detect clarification, blah blah, refocusing and trajectory. Timing in pure Socratic dialogue at peaks of confidence, amounts of vagueness, at logical points, not randomly and not too late. Short canonical examples. Modern occasional interpretations. Consistency, teachable confusion. So the reason I'm reluctant to go pure LLM in here is because it is clearly a sort of a cause and effect. It's clearly like an interruption that you're doing given a specific environment, world scenario, right? So you're not you're not really like you cannot analyze in chunks and expect that you're going to understand when these things emerge. You can, right? I mean, you can do this, which is probably what the Mira Mirati team is doing. It's like you keep like you keep processing 200 milliliters at a time. You're building up context, and then at some point you do the interruption, because you have an LLM judge, so to say, and it's probably a stupid question, right? But if we it's maybe a stupid question, but if we had an let me just ask this to myself, or let's ask this to Grok and see what it says. Just a side question. If I have an LLM that is fast enough that it almost like, let's assume that it can respond in real time, like it's indistinguishable. There's no processing time, no whatever, right? And you're feeding this model with the video data from a self-driving system. In theory, in that context, what's the difference between having a world model that is basically, you know, that has the policy, and then, you know, versus the LLM purely predicting what it should do next given the sequence of images, right? Like almost in real time. Like if processing is not the problem or the bottleneck, is there really an essential difference? I guess my thinking here is what the model is essentially doing is kind of predicting the next tokens, is really kind of reasoning, right? An LLM, versus what a world model does. What a world model does is kind of understanding what the actions. It's more an action space, I would say. I'm struggling with these, right? Because in theory, like people like Jan LeCun like tries to make a big thing out of these, but I'm like, if I think about these from a naive perspective, I'm not so confident that I can like say that's, you know, what's the core difference between an LLM and a world model? Or because that's autoregressive and this is yeah, sequence continuation, exactly. Genie is a world model. Okay, yeah. Okay, so it knows how the world evolves given actions. Okay, so essentially the essential difference is it kind of expects or knows what is happening given a certain action. Yeah, because that's what makes me a sufficiently huge, well-trained video LLM could approximate a good driving. Yeah, that's what I thought, right? It would look like a very competitive reactive driver, but it would still be fundamentally different from a system that has an internal simulator. Yeah. So the world model is predicting what will happen if I do X, Y, and or Z, and choosing optimally. It's hard because I kind of like think that a long term an LLM could in theory approximate everything, right? Anyway, I'm gonna leave it here right now. I'm gonna wrap it up here. See you guys tomorrow. I still think that the world model kind of feeds more, because we're trying to see what we're trying to generate actions. We're trying to like say entrap, not entrapped, entrap, not entrapped. Like, you know, kind of like that. That's why you need the policy, and that's why you want to basically predict what will happen if I entrap right now, right? Yeah. I need to iterate on that a lot. But that's kind of the next step for the core of OpenLesson, right? See you guys tomorrow.